Okay, let's get started. So you all came back, which I guess says something. Either you love my class or you're severely irrational. I don't know. How was the midterm? Was okay? Was not okay? Well, you know, there's just this. I try to teach people this lesson over and over again. It never works. If the exam's hard for you, so here's try to remember this. Really, this is going to help you throughout your life, and you just somewhere. It's amazing. I have this conversation with students in my office hours over and over again. Right? If this is let's say this is 0. I don't even know what the scale is. There's some distribution of student ability, right? And that distribution of student ability is going to shape the grades that people get, right? And if let's say you're here in the distribution, okay? I don't know, you might be here, you might be there, it doesn't matter. If you go into, and you know where you are in the distribution, right? Because you've been students for a really long time. If you go into an exam and you discover that it's really hard for you, what should you assume about where you lie in the distribution relative to all other students over time? Has it suddenly changed? No. What you should assume is that the exam is unusually hard, and that your position relative to everybody else has not changed. Which means you should relax, right? In fact, you should take advantage of the fact that everybody else is not rational enough to learn this lesson. They're all panicking. If you're the one student in the room who doesn't panic, you're actually going to do better than everybody, better than you usually do. Because everybody else is sitting there going, oh my God, Professor Acklin is a moron when he says this. I know he's wrong. Everything in my future hangs upon this, and I'm blowing it. And you're sitting there going, let me show you the PDF, and I know where I lie in the distribution, and I'm chill. So, and this isn't just because I curve the grades, right? If I make a really hard exam and the class isn't curved at all, I hate this. I don't like it because you need to be able to see me more. I need to ask you a favor. I've done the stupid thing where I leave the base in my office. Would you be willing to hoof it over there and pick it up? 2, 3, which key? That one. So even if I didn't curve at all, right? I take the exam. I don't know. I write the exam. I don't actually know how hard it is until you take it. I take the exam myself. This is not a very good indicator of how hard it is because I just wrote it. Okay? So I don't know how hard it is until you take it. So even if I grade on an absolutely non-relative scale, I'm not going to know where to put that scale until after you've revealed to me how hard the exam is. Okay? So it's not that where you are in the distribution over time on average matters because I'm going to grade you relative to one another. It's because literally your grade typically is going to be driven by where you are in the ability distribution of students in the class. And that is not changing because suddenly you discover that your dork professor has written an unusually hard exam. Okay? So if you can actually learn this lesson, you will do better because you won't panic. Yeah? If you're low ability, it doesn't matter. If you're high ability, it doesn't matter. If you're anywhere in between, it doesn't matter. Furthermore, by the way, in the race to get into the grave that we're all engaged in here on this planet, you're not going to, your ultimate destination does not depend upon your grades in this class, right? You're going to sail through life for a little while, and then you're going to plop down into a hole in the ground, and this stuff just doesn't matter. This stuff just doesn't matter that much. It really doesn't matter that much, okay? The worms will not spit you out because you blew midterm 2 in Acklin's class. All right, announcements. Your exams should be returned this week. Some of you may not get them until first section at the beginning of next week. Problem set 5 has been posted. It's due 2 weeks from today. And, 2 weeks from, is it Tuesday? 2 weeks from Tuesday. There's no class next, 2 weeks from today. There's no class next Tuesday, right? Everybody knows that? It's the 11th of November. What happened on the 11th of November? What? Armistice. We beat the bloody Germans. Any Germans in the room? Man, we beat you twice, 2 times. And look where I got you. You're like the wealthiest nation on earth. Okay, so we're shifting gears, kind of. You know, my sort of emphasis in this class throughout, as you're obviously aware by now, is on public policy because I'm a professor of public policy. But now I'm actually going to focus just completely on some of the broad public policy issues or ways in which behavioral economics sort of enters into public policy. When I started teaching this class 4 years ago, my take on this section was, hey, wouldn't it be wonderful if behavioral economics had a big role in public policy? Now I can say with some pride and enthusiasm and so forth that behavioral economics actually is starting to take a fairly big role in public policy, particularly in this country and in the United Kingdom, I think elsewhere in Europe as well. David Cameron in England and Barack Obama here have actually appointed sort of committees of advisors, or in England actually established a whole new agency that is in England called the Behavioral Insights Team. And basically what it is it's, hey, these behavioral economists, they seem to have something to say. Let's actually put them in government and have them say it to us intelligently in ways that could actually shape public policy. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, so we're going to start, as always, by reviewing standard economics and what it tells us about public policy, and then we're going to see what happens, as always, what happens when we relax assumptions of rationality. All right. For review, and by the way, you definitely do know all of this. Unregulated markets, by which I mean markets that the government has not tampered with, maximize social welfare, the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus. Actually, I'm sorry, I want to correct that. I don't mean the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus. What I mean is the sum of all utility to society net of the cost, so the net benefit to society of all of our economic activity, if the following things are true. First, that markets are competitive. Okay, so I'm sort of reiterating a little bit some stuff that we did on, I think, the very first day of the semester. So what it means that markets are competitive is something very, very specific. It means that firms have no control over the prices they charge. They are, what do we call them? They are price takers. They take the price as exogenously given. Okay? Technically, what that means is that the firm-level demand curve, right? The aggregate demand curve in any market is downward sloping. Perfectly competitive markets, or firms in perfectly competitive markets, experience their individual firm demand curve as being perfectly horizontal, right? And it is horizontal at the market price. Basically, if they raise their price above the market price, they're not going to get any business. And if they lower it below the market price, they're going to get all the business they want, but they're going to be losing money on it. So the profit-maximizing price for any firm to charge for any quantity of output in a perfectly competitive market is the market price. Okay? That means that they can't control the price. They can't raise or lower the price without losing profit or potentially catastrophically. Okay? This rules out monopoly and oligopoly. It rules out any situation in which firms have market power that will allow them to set a price that is not socially optimal. Okay? B, second condition, buyers and sellers have perfect information. Okay, so consumers know the true costs and benefits of consuming goods. This rules out quite a lot of things. This rules out a lot of, there's people talk about the nanny state, and one of the things that people like to focus on is you look at a typical children's playground of today and compare it to the playgrounds that I grew up in when back in the 70s. It's not that bad, 1970s. you would look at the playgrounds I grew up on, you'd say, how did you make it? How did you survive? Everything here would kill you in a second. And what we've done is that we've regulated an enormous number of goods, playground equipment, all kinds of consumer products, particularly food, drugs, all kinds of things that have health and safety consequences or costs, dangers that consumers don't necessarily know about, right, when they buy the goods, because of imperfect information. So that would violate this assumption of perfect information. And it also assumes that firms know the true cost of supplying goods to specific consumers. And the main thing that this rules out is moral hazard or adverse selection, right? So we see this, the biggest example we see is in insurance markets, where if I'm an insurance company and I'm giving you a policy for, let's say, for your car, the cost to me as the insurance company of providing that policy depends upon the value of your car, which I can observe more or less perfectly, and the probability that you will crash, right? Because the cost to me is the expected payout, which is the cost of your car times the probability you'll crash. And I don't know the probability you'll crash, so I don't actually know the value of that, the cost to me of providing you that contract. So that's another case of imperfect information. Okay? So we're assuming that all that isn't there. Okay? Both sides of the market have perfect information. The next assumption is no externalities, right? Which is a special case of that is public goods. Any time that either the benefits or costs of consumption are received or borne, so this assumes that all benefits and costs of consumption are either received or borne by the people who actually pay for the goods, the consumers. Okay, so this rules out any kind of public good, right? So one classic example is fireworks display. If I buy a bunch of fireworks and let them off in my yard, I get the benefit of that. My neighbor does too, but my neighbor didn't have to pay for it. So there's an external benefit because it's public good. I can't keep anybody else in town from enjoying it. Another example, classic example, is, which we'll talk about, is say pollution from gasoline consumption. Okay, so I drive a big fat SUV and I produce a whole bunch of pollution. The cost to me of that experience is that I had to pay for the car and the gas, and maybe there's a small cost that under certain circumstances I might have to breathe my own fumes, but there's a cost to everybody else who breathes those fumes and experiences the effect of sort of atmospheric destruction in some sense. Okay, the model of perfectly competitive markets that we typically start with assumes that way. Same thing with benefits and costs of production. So that's goods. Sorry, this is goods that produce pollution when they're being made. Right? Okay, so like the acid runoff that often comes from making microchips. Okay, if all of these things are true, then the following statements will also be true. Set off on this expedition without my notes. If all of those things are true, then the following statements will also be true. First, if A, the one about firms being price takers, is true, then the price will be determined by the intersection of supply and demand. So if you remember the model of a monopoly, right? So this is a monopoly. The monopoly faces a downward sloping demand curve because it faces the entire market demand curve, right? And then let's say it has some marginal cost, which we'll assume for the simplicity is constant, and there's some average cost curve, which because of fixed costs, of course, is downward sloping. And what we know that the firm will do, right? Profit maximization isn't the place where price is equal to marginal cost, which would be out here. It's the place where the marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, right? And you hopefully all learned how to figure out what the marginal revenue curve is for the firm, right? Because each time, when a firm adjusts price or when price changes, the marginal revenue to the firm of selling one more unit is just the price that they get for that unit. But in the case of a monopoly, with every unit that they produce, they're driving down their own price, right? So they're gaining some benefit from selling an additional unit, but they're losing some benefit by driving down the price on all their other units. Thank you very much. As a result of which, the marginal revenue curve is below the marginal cost curve, and they actually maximize their profits by locating here, right? So this is what would have been optimal to society, because that's the place where the benefit that people get is equal to the cost that society pays. But instead, they will locate, the market will actually, market if you want to call it that, the market will get us to a point of underproduction. This is sometimes referred to colloquially as price gouging. So if that's not the case, then what will be true is that the price in the market will be determined by the intersection of supply and demand, right? Where the marginal cost of society, which is the supply curve, is equal to the marginal benefit, which is the height of the demand curve. Okay, so we'll get prices determined by that, and the equilibrium outcome will be determined by that in terms of the quantity supplied. Oops, would have been nice to have some axes there. If B is true, that was the one about consumers in particular having perfect information about the costs and benefits to them of consuming a good, then the height of the demand curve will represent marginal private benefit. Okay, so this thing will be the marginal private benefit, right? So this is actually technically this is willingness to pay. But if consumers actually know how much value they're getting out of a good, if they don't, for example, if they were unaware that, so do you guys all know about Bucky cubes and Bucky balls? There's these little super magnet toys. I have a set of them on my desk. And if you happen to swallow more than one of them, they get into different parts of your intestines, and they magnetize together, and your intestines are now bonko, and you need surgery to get them out. But if you buy Bucky cubes for your 18-month-old baby, you don't necessarily know that. So this thing, you think it's worth the value of getting to see your kid play with these really cool toys, but it's actually worth that minus non-trivial probability that they'll die as a result of playing with them. So if that stuff's not true, if consumers actually know, and the value to them of the goods they purchase, and suppliers, firms know the value of what they're selling, then you'll get that the demand curve is equal to the marginal private benefit, and that the supply curve is equal to the marginal private cost, right? The cost to the people in the market. Cost to consumers, cost to suppliers. Sorry, benefit to consumers, cost to suppliers. Now, these people are members of society, so this is for sure a part of the benefit and cost to society as a whole, but it isn't necessarily the whole business, because we also have this question of whether or not there are externalities. So if C is true, no externalities, then the supply and demand curves will also capture marginal social cost and marginal social benefit. Okay? And I think that's the last thing I have to say about that. Right? So again, consumers and suppliers, consumers and producers are members of society. So the cost, right, the height of the supply curve is the cost of the stuff you have to burn up in order to, it's like people's time, uranium that you have to pull out of the ground, steel, concrete, whatever it is. It's stuff that goes away and never comes back when you produce a good. In a competitive market where firms are making only normal profits, that's the cost to society borne by the firm. And if there's no externalities in production, then that's the whole cost to society as well. And likewise, if there are no externalities in consumption, then the benefit that the person who buys the good gets is the whole benefit to society. And that turns out to be a really good thing, right? We like these assumptions because they get us to here, okay? They get us to statements that we get to make that are policy relevant statements. So I'm going to have to go. I'll just tee up this question, and then I have to go and turn on the iClicker software. If all of those things above are true, then which of the following statements are also true? Right? Markets are Pareto efficient, markets are Hicks-Calder efficient, there's no reason for any kind of government intervention, free markets are best, or no answer, which might actually be I don't know, could be the true answer. So let me go turn on the clicker thing. Whoops. Okay, so let's find out if so you're all still on AA. Okay, good. Frequency's working this time. Okay. I need to go back to the... Okay, click in your answers, if you've got answers. If you think there might be more than one right answer, just pick the one you think is most right or most relevant or that you like the best. It's not... Your thing's still not working? It should be. We're back on AA. Did you... If you're... I don't know if changing your setting was made a permanent... I changed mine temporarily, so we're back to AA. Anybody having trouble with the frequency? Yeah? Do you know how to change it back to AA? Okay, somebody help Dominic. Power button, then hold when it's flashing, hit A, then A again, and then rock and roll. Okay, good. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what do we have? All right. So we have a bunch of A's and a bunch of C's and a bunch of D's. I don't know. Let's start with D. Who likes D? Is there a Rick Perry in the house? Anybody? Oh, come on, don't be ashamed. Just because it's Berkeley doesn't mean you can't be pro-markets. Go ahead. It's some form of all of the above. So each of these things seems like a positive thing to say about a market. And if you sort of think that more than one of them, possibly all of them are true, then free markets are best. Seems like a good answer. All right, so let's go through those statements. Markets are Pareto efficient? Yes? Can someone defend this answer? Yes, you can, Priyanka. Sorry? Okay, so if you moved away from the equilibrium point from here, right? So this is going to determine the quantity supplied in the market, and this is going to determine the price. If P star Q star is, think of that as the equilibrium point, moving away from that, right, is going to make either somebody or everybody worse off. It can't make everybody better off, right? So moving in this direction means that firms are going to produce stuff that's worth that. So if you change Q holding the price constant, right, then everybody would be made worse off. If you move Q in either direction without changing the price, everybody's made worse off. That's what deadweight loss is. If you were to hold Q constant and change the price up or down, you'd be transferring money from consumers to firms, right? And so one of them's made worse off, all the others made better off. So this is Pareto efficient. It also happens, of course, to be Hicks-Calder efficient, right? This is we typically learn this idea that it maximizes the sum of consumer and producer surplus. What's nice is that under the assumption that there are no externalities, consumers and producers are all we have to care about. So this is actually maximizing the sum of everybody in society's benefits. Because everybody outside this market is neither harmed nor benefited. Okay. So again, any direction you go here is going to result in either, let's say, if you shift down to some below equilibrium or up to some above equilibrium, this is a situation where you're not producing and consuming units of the good for which the benefit to society is greater than the cost. And if you go above, then you're producing and consuming units for which the benefit to society is lower than the cost. Sorry, so this is overproduction and that's underproduction, and either of those is a reduction in what's called Hicks-Calder efficiency. If the market gets to the socially optimal point by itself, then what's the point of government? It's really just there to keep ISIS at bay, right, and protect our oil. So the conclusion is that the government should keep its filthy hands off the market, which is another way of saying free markets are best, right? They're best in this sense, okay? So that's what we get. What? No, I don't want to do that. How do I cancel? Oh, for Pete's sake. Resume session. Fine. Now, I heard someone say very cynically that, and this was someone from Harvard, they said, look, in Econ 1 we teach principles of economics. In intermediate, micro, macro, we reteach principles of economics. And then in each of our upper division field courses, we once again reteach the principles of economics. And the principles of economics is kind of this, right? This is the thing people actually remember. And then they go out and become voters, okay? And all hell breaks loose. But we know that there's more to the story than that, right? Because what we know is that this model, this is not a picture of the real world. This is a very simplified model of the real world. And it turns out that it's a model that fits the actual real world very rarely, right? So there are a few markets where you can sort of imagine that maybe this fits reasonably well, but not many, because most goods violate at least one of these assumptions, right? And the imperfect information and the externalities is a big part of that, and market power kicks in a lot of places as well. This is no problem, though, right? We don't have a problem with this. This is not a challenge for standard economics, right? It's not like the existence of externalities somehow puts a stake through the heart of neoclassical economics. What do I want to put on here? Oh, sorry, I wanted to, no, I'm not ready to move on. I wanted to say one more thing before I move on. Okay, so there's all these fabulous results. So one of the things I want to sort of comment on is you've heard people say that the reason markets are so fabulous is because they serve an information aggregating function. Is that a somewhat familiar thought to you guys?